I'm Cassandra and I work with ThedaCare. I'm also a busy mom of 3.
Camden, no thanks. Hey.
Doing it all is more challenging than ever, and that includes making healthcare decisions. So, welcome to Health Inspired Talk, where we cut through the confusion, we chat with experts, and we help you get the care you need for you and your family. Spring has arrived, and though we were treated to a gentle winter, we're still ready to transition to the joys of warm weather and longer days. For so many of us, favorite activities include sports, both watching and participating. From baseball and softball to racket sports and running, spring and summer are prime time for outdoor activities. Today, we have a special episode of Health Inspired Talk. We're filming here in the ThedaCare Orthopedic Care Performance Center on the grounds of the Fox City Stadium, home to the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers. During the off-season, area baseball and softball teams can rent this space here to train in the same facility that players use during their season. And we're excited to welcome experts from ThedaCare Orthopedic Care to talk to us about how to maintain peak performance and stay safe so we can continue to enjoy our favorite activities. ThedaCare is proud to partner with organizations like the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers, and since we are in this amazing space, we brought in one of our experts, Dr. Ryan Wagner, a sports medicine physician with ThedaCare Orthopedic Care. Thanks for being with us, Dr. Wagner.
Very happy to be here.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to walk around these bases and talk through some of the most common injuries. You're going to explain those injuries and then maybe give us some ideas of ways to prevent them.
Sounds good.
All right, let's head to first. All right, first one here, we have sprains, strains, and fractures. I'm sure you probably see this quite often. What are some of the most common sprains and strains that you see, and maybe how do we prevent those?
With the spring coming up, we're going to see a lot of people of all ages really looking to get back outside. So whether it's on the playing field or even simply in your backyard, we see a lot of injuries. And a lot of times these things can happen from one simply being in the winter, people aren't as active, so they get out there and they kind of go out there cold turkey, and that can really increase people's risks of injury.
So it sounds like these things happen often. How do you prevent them?
So I really encourage people to develop a comprehensive training program, so involving cardiovascular health as well as conditioning, flexibility, and strength. And I feel that really gives athletes as well as people of all ages, the chance to really recover and prevent injuries. Also, getting good sleep that is really overlooked and staying well hydrated throughout the year.
Oh, great tips. All right, let's head to second.
Sounds good. Overuse.
Okay, so overuse, I'm guessing overuse injuries when it comes to shoulders, throwing, things like that?
So one of the things we see in young sports and young athletes in general is overuse. And a lot of times it's sports specialization. And so with the competitive nature of sports in general, kids are practicing year-round and playing year-round, which can lead to overuse injuries.
So I have 2 pitchers at home, and this is something that we consistently worry about, is overusing and hurting their shoulders. Are there things that people are doing now to make sure that that's not happening?
They've implemented pitch counts on all levels. They limit the amount of throws that athletes are doing to decrease the injuries that are occurring. Research has really shown that it's helped quite a bit.
Oh, that's really great to hear. All right, let's go to third and see the next injury.
Sounds good.
All right, next injury we have, head injuries. So head injuries in baseball and softball, but I'm guessing other sports as well, right?
Yeah, a lot of times we see concussion is a very common injury that we see in sports, and these can occur in contact and non-contact activities. So a lot of times with baseball and softball, we think of it as a non-contact sport, but whether it be getting hit in the head with a ball, tripping, falling and hitting your head, or even colliding with another teammate, concussions can happen pretty regularly.
And what are some things that we can do to prevent concussions?
Yeah, I think wearing good protective equipment, especially with batting helmets, making sure they fit well, can probably be one of the most preventative things we can do to prevent concussion.
Yep, and young girls are still wearing face masks as well.
That's correct.
All right, let's head home.
Sounds good. Other injuries.
Okay, I feel like baseball and softball is one of those sports where kind of anything can happen, those really random injuries. So how do you help prevent those extra things that might be happening?
Yeah, great question. I think one of the best ways is to stay physically active, throughout the year. One of the other main things that I tell athletes is really not pushing through pain. If you're having pain, that's not normal, and so I really tell people to back off if they're developing pain with activity.
Which is something we really have to reiterate in our young athletes.
Yes.
We also know that sports medicine is not just for athletes. It's also for people doing everyday things like gardening, yard work. So how do we make sure those types of injuries don't happen?
A lot of people have uneven ground in their yards, and so we see a lot of injuries in clinics where they've stepped on uneven ground and sprained their ankles. A lot of times people like to do more than they're used to doing, so rather than lifting 2 bags of grass clippings, maybe lift 1 and take 2 trips. If you're lifting heavy plants and things like that around your garden, really try to focus on lifting with those legs rather than the back.
Okay, as we're hoping for good weather, these are wonderful tips. Okay, so finally, when people need orthopedic care, how can they get it?
Over at ThedaCare, Orthopedic Spine and Pain, we have a walk-in orthopedic clinic that's staffed with a provider 7 days a week, and we see anything from head to toe. So we'd be happy to see you over there at any time.
All right, thanks for being with us, Dr. Wagner.
Anytime. Thank you for having me.
ThedaCare is proud to encourage healthy, active lifestyles through its support of the Fox Cities Marathon. Dr. David Hirschi is a sports medicine physician with ThedaCare. You're also the medical director for Race Weekend. So thanks for being with us.
You're welcome.
We're going to talk about running and some injuries that we commonly see, and you're going to tell us how to help prevent some of those injuries.
Okay.
So the way that we're going to do this, we have a word wall with some really common injuries, and we're going to see if we can pick maybe the top ones that you see.
Okay.
All right, you may have to help me out with this one, but all right, let's start at the top here. Let's see, is tendinitis on our word wall for most common injuries? Is that one that you see?
Yep.
Okay,
that
so
is one we see.
what is tendinitis?
Tendinitis is an overuse injury of the tendons, various tendons, like your Achilles, your patellar tendon, and it's really when you overwork it, overstretch it, so then the fibers get kind of pulled, or maybe some micro tears in there, and then that irritation creates some inflammation, then pain, and then it gets difficult to kind of proceed and keep going.
Mm-hmm. How do you treat that?
Because it's an overuse injury, you've got to back off. But when we talk about rest, we don't necessarily mean do absolutely nothing. You really back off so that you don't have pain, and then you do a gradual return to sport, running, whatever it is.
Okay, let's see if we can find our next injury up there. Stress injuries, stress fractures, again, one I hear often.
Yep. Yeah, that's very common, especially in runners who are doing longer distances, and or those who are not very active and go to a very quick level of activity. People that try to do the couch to 5K or things like that, if they go too quick, you can stress out muscles, and then those muscle attachments to the bone. And commonly is that shin splint, right? That muscle of the anterior lower leg pulls on that bone, and it starts with a shin splint, and then it can progress to a stress response, and then if you keep going and don't treat it properly, they can then end up with a stress fracture. So yeah.
Okay, next one up there, sprain. Okay, I don't feel like this happens to just runners, right? Like this could happen to a lot of different people.
Well, that's true, and in fact, it may be more common in people that are doing more of a cutting sport,
Sure.
Stop and start. But runners commonly get sprains of the joints. You can twist your ankle on a rock, and a lot of runners like to run on trails and things, and so yeah, you can sprain the joint, and you can sprain the ankles or the knees or really any joint.
Okay. All right, I'm going to ask this question, probably a silly question. Strains, are those different than sprains?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yes, they are. So we talked about sprains. Sprains are relative to the joint. So you twist the joint and the ligaments there get injured, get stretched. And a strain is related to the muscle, okay? So it really is equivalent or the same thing as a pulled muscle. So you often hear, oh, I pulled my hamstring or I pulled my calf muscle. That is what a strain is.
Okay, so how do you prevent those types of injuries?
Prevention comes with really doing a good job at conditioning your muscles prior to your run or your event. So making sure you're gradually increasing, whether it be your distance or your speed or your time, your pace, and so not jumping in too fast. And also listening to your body. If you're running, you're doing, let's say you want to do a 10-mile run, Well, if you start feeling a little tightness in a muscle at mile 7, it might be best to back off. Either slow down, take a break, stretch out, so that you don't push through and then all of a sudden that muscle pulls.
Yeah. Okay, these are really good tips. Thanks for playing that one, Dr. Hirschi. So in addition to the support that you provide, ThedaCare also offers some additional resources for the runners.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a training guide on foxcitiesmarathon.org that people can download, and every week there's training runs that we actually have physical therapists at, and they can see you and support you in any issues you may be having and help guide you as well.
All right, this is wonderful advice, Dr. Hirschi. Thanks for being with us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
When someone needs a higher level of care, ThedaCare Orthopedic Care offers surgeries ranging from minimally invasive to complex procedures. Here to tell us more is Dr. Nickolas Linkous, an orthopedic sports surgeon. Thanks for being with us, Dr. Linkous.
Absolutely.
So tell us what you do as an orthopedic sports surgeon.
So as an orthopedic sports surgeon, I've done extra fellowship training, specializing in both minimally invasive and open procedures to repair torn ligaments or reconstruct torn ligaments, or sometimes address shoulder replacements if needed.
So you really do see patients from all levels of care and age.
Yes, yep, we get a wide range.
And we're talking baseball, softball, things like that today. What are some of the surgeries that you often perform in baseball and softball players?
It's most common in our throwing athletes. We're seeing shoulder and elbow injuries. So from the shoulder standpoint, a slap tear, which is a labral tear, that's very common. And at the elbow, usually in our pitchers, someone throwing at a higher velocity, we're talking about the UCL injury or ligament tear, the surgery that everyone knows is the Tommy John surgery.
And that's what I was going to ask. Is that pretty common more? I know that, there are so many things in place right now to protect young pitchers and their throwing arms and pitch counts and injury prevention. Do you see a lot of those Tommy John surgeries now?
Less so than before, but it is still common. Usually these can be treated without surgery, so the surgery itself is not as common. But when we do see it, it's usually in a pitcher.
Okay, and that does make sense. You also perform hip and knee surgeries. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
So from the hip and knee standpoint, especially with our throwing athletes, not as common as the upper extremities. I do hip arthroscopy, labral repairs. So sometimes in our throwing athletes, because they use so much of that hip and kind of torso to generate the torque, you will see labral tears. So we sometimes have to do minimally invasive surgery to repair the hip labrum. And then from the knee standpoint, a lot of times we see that in sliding. And less common than our football and soccer players, but ACL injuries, meniscus tears do tend to plague all athletes, including softball and baseball players.
Okay, that's good information for us. And like we talked about, you're a sports surgeon, but that doesn't mean that you're only, working with athletes. Can you talk about why it's so important for you to be available for people who might not be athletes?
Our goal as a sports surgeon is preservation and getting someone back to whatever that activity or level of function was before their injury. For athletes, that's usually defined by return to sport. But for people like you or I who are not professional athletes, that's usually just getting back to sleeping comfortably, or waking up without pain, or taking care of your kids, or getting up to the top shelf.
That's so important too, because it means that you're living your best life, or whatever that is for you.
People really underestimate a shoulder, hip, or knee injury until they have one that's dictating their day-to-day routine.
Okay, Dr. Linkous, this has been great information. Thanks for being with us.
Of course.
And thank you for joining us today. As you get out and enjoy the season to the fullest, know that ThedaCare Orthopedic Care is always here for you. If you need care, stop in at Orthopedic Walk-In Care, open 7 days a week, or call 920-831-5050 to schedule an appointment with an orthopedic specialist. We'll see you soon. At ThedaCare, our mission is to help you live your unique best life. And we want to know what kind of questions you have when it comes to your health care. Leave your questions and comments below. And be sure to like and subscribe so you see the very latest in this series.